Hi, my name is John Barrett with PM Consultants, and today I'm joined with Garrett Loesch, who's the Chief Financial Officer for the Borough of Tuckerton. Welcome, Garrett.
Thank you.
Hey, we're here today to talk a little bit about the municipal audit. So in the state of New Jersey, whether it's a municipality or school board or even county government, there's an annual audit done by an outside auditor, also known as a registered municipal accountant or RMA. Now, the state statute had it that an audit has to be performed after 6 months, within 6 months of the end of the fiscal year. So if a fiscal year ends on 12/31 of a given year, by June 30th, the audit has to be produced. And that's what we're here to talk a little bit about, because in audit, it's not an IRS audit. This isn't the IRS coming in. The governing body hires an independent accounting firm in order to come in and conduct an audit. And as a former auditor, coming to a municipality for a few weeks, working with the chief financial officer, the tax collector, to basically look at the records and audit that, it can become a little challenging at times, because sometimes you run into a situation where maybe a chief financial officer is new at the job. Maybe there's some financial problems that ultimately, when they start to reconcile the books, have to be presented in the audit. Now, customarily, when we have an audit done, the auditor either will accept a set of financials from the client, in this case you, and actually have a true audit associated with that. And they will go through and basically it's kind of like a medical exam in some ways, right? Tell us a little bit about what the municipal audit is for you.
I think many of the taxpayers think of the CFO as the final judge of how we spend our money and what we do, and don't realize that the state requires the RMA to come in and audit everything I've done. And so really they're the back checker to everything that I do. They'll do random samplings of resolutions to make sure that we've signed the certification of funds, that things were accounted for properly. It's usually a team that comes in and takes a few weeks. They will look at the annual financial statement, the annual debt statement, and they'll take into account and make sure that all the numbers match. In some cases, they might help me rewrite a schedule if it needs to be rewritten.
Which are called audit adjustments, which are routine. Anytime a chief financial officer is dealing with the recording of receipts, revenues, closing out the books and records for the town, there could be an adjustment, and that's what the purpose of the audit is. An auditor is going to come in, they're going to take a sampling, because they can't review every single transaction that's happened in the year, thousands of checks or purchase orders that happen, whether it's a large or a small town. They'll come in and do a statistical sampling. In addition to that, they'll look at all the expenditures to see what are material. So, if they're going to review the expenditures and they see $1 million expenditure to buy, say, a fire truck or some piece of equipment like that, their chances are they're going to pull that document, because that's a material transaction.
And they do want to review and make sure that I've followed and the town has followed all the state statutes and procedures that are established to make those purchases and to handle those things. They're double checking to make sure that I've advised correctly and followed procedures.
Right. So if they do were to find something that, say, was contrary to public purchasing law, contrary to budget law, such as an over expenditure or not doing transfers timely in the budget document, what happens at that point? Do they comment in the audit at that point?
You can receive audit comments. Some are more material than others. It can be a minor material comment, and others are a formal comment that needs to be corrected. And I have to do a corrective action plan and make steps to not only correct that, but to prevent it in the future.
Now, when an auditor comes in, they're not just here to bang you up, to be the bad guy, the heavy. They're there trying to make sure that we get a good audit, meaning that eventually, what you mentioned, the corrective action plan, one of the towns I remember starting in when I got there, the previous auditor had over 50 audit comments. And when we talk about a corrective action plan, the corrective action plan, if there are audit comments in the given year, we have to actually have something that says that we are going to, here's the comment, here's the condition, and here's our corrective action. I'll give you an example. Bank reconciliations were not done timely. Bank reconciliation should be done timely. The corrective action plan is that we, as a chief financial officer, are going to do those in a timely manner. Now, when you have comments year after year, what they're called repeat audit comments, they actually get a little bit raised up a little bit, in so much that they are a material weakness at sometimes. Ultimately, an auditor is doing their best to make sure that they are representing the financials and that they did conduct a thorough audit. It's okay for some audit comments to be present. That shows that there are some things that need to happen. Now, obviously, as CFOs, we love clean audits, things that have zero audit comments. And sometimes, and I know you have gotten those year over year. Right, but it's not easy. That's something you have to do and work.
And it's not only the CFO, because they monitor and audit all departments. So they might look at the court and the court administrator, where she maintains or he maintains his own bank accounts for bail and for court fines. Maybe a check, an outstanding check wasn't carried over into the following month the way it should have been. It could have been a comment. They'll also look at the municipal clerk and resolutions. And did we have a resolution to waive those water fees? Was this done correctly? Did we have a resolution to add a grant? They'll look at everything.
Yeah, because God forbid, we have these people in key positions such as the chief financial officer, the tax collector. You wouldn't, and certainly this doesn't happen here or any other towns that I know about, but you can have a tax collector who goes in there and for whatever reason, it's hard to say this, but for whatever reason says, okay, they might post a fraudulent payment. They might somehow put a credit on the account. And that's the kind of stuff that the audit would check on and dig into. Now, if there are situations where deposits aren't deposited within 48 hours, which is a state statute, for other things that might come up as exceptions, if the auditor finds that there are some exceptions in their sampling, then they're going to increase their sampling. And that's always never fun, right?
No, it's not fun.
No, they're actually asking us to do more work and pull out a lot of purchase orders to review those from day to day. So that's something that obviously we love to work with our auditors. We do. It's not a lie, right? We do like to work with our auditors.
They can be an asset.
They can be an asset, a bit of a pain sometimes, but we're going to put that they're assets. Truly, they are assets. Ultimately, having been an auditor, my feeling always was, I am here to work with the client, not oppose the client. And of course, when you walk in there for the first time, they get their porcupine quills a little up there a little bit because they think they're being audited in a negative way. But ultimately, auditors are there to help not only the municipality to give reassurance to the residents and the state government that the local municipality is operating to the peak performance, but also to give that corrective action if necessary. It's a little bit of slap on the wrist sometimes, but ultimately things happen, and to err is to be human is to err, right? At certain times.
I agree. I think, and when the audit is produced as a document, it's a small book.
Yeah.
And most people are unable to digest what's in the book.
Right.
But it is still listed on our website year to year to year, and it's there. We certainly do our best to make sure everything's in agreement and complied with, and if they find something small, then we fix it. If they find something immaterial, we fix it. Also, I'll go to the auditors in the event that something is not proper, and I'm not comfortable with how collections were posted somewhere, and it's a little bit, where I'm not sure if it's theft or not theft. I will bring that up to the auditor, and then they have responsibilities of also reporting it to the state, and they'll come in and they'll do a more forensic audit and try to deep dive into that.
Right. What he's talking about.
And I'm not saying that theft's common, but you're talking the public's money, so you want to handle it as best you can.
Right. So if you do find, I often found that when clients called me during the course of their operations for the year and said, "Listen, I have a question. How would I handle a certain situation? Something's popped up." As an auditor, I love dealing with that because if I could give that client guidance during the course of the year, then when it came down time when we got in there for the audit, that chances are they didn't run afoul, that we had a chance to have an open dialogue. So having an open dialogue with an auditor is great.
Is positive.
Right. You can call up your auditor any point in time and say, "Listen, here's the situation, what should I do? They're a resource, in addition, as you said, to reassuring that the taxes are accounted for and all the spending. But after an audit is performed by the auditor, it is then given to the governing body. They actually have to accept the audit, and at that point, that becomes the official audit of the municipality.
That's correct.
And guess what? In a few more months, we have another audit coming due as well.
Never fails.
It never fails. Every year we're getting an audit. Every year we're having to account for our nickels and pennies. And every year we always love working with the auditors because they are what's best for towns.
And they reassure the taxpayers that I'm doing my job correctly.
Right. If not, you're going to get an audit comment. That being said, thank you for joining us today to talk a little bit about municipal audits. And the next time you go on the website and look for a municipal audit, give your CFO a call if you have any questions. They'll be happy to speak to you about it. Thanks.
Thank you.